Hey there, welcome or welcome back. I'm Angela. Welcome to my channel, The Woodland Gardener. Thanks for stopping in. I've got a pretty quick video today to give you guys an update on the progress of installing our greenhouse. So it's going to go right there, and you can obviously see that we haven't installed it yet, but we did lay the pad for it and a foundation, so that's progress. That was probably the hardest part of this whole thing, I think. So the greenhouse that we're using is just one of those kits that are aluminum framed with, I guess, polycarbonate, quote unquote, glass panels. And it's 8 by 8, and we have it in pieces right now in our shed. So I think the hardest part of this whole process was getting this pad laid down, getting a nice solid foundation for it. So if you're interested in seeing how we did that, stay tuned. As I mentioned, the greenhouse is 8 by 8. So what we did, the first thing that we had to take into consideration was a good site to establish, to set the greenhouse on, just because it needs to get a lot of sun. So this area right here adjacent to our shed will get quite a bit of sun. It gets full sun all throughout the day, like at any time of the year pretty much. So knowing that our finished greenhouse size is 8 by 8, I did want a little bit of a perimeter around it, so that, like, for string trimming the grass and whatnot, we wouldn't have to be going right up to the greenhouse itself. This is kind of an idea after talking about it and looking pictures of how other people have done it. We kind of just came up with this idea and figured it would work best in our situation. People do install greenhouses on many types of foundations, concrete pads, even wooden platforms. I've seen people do it on pallet wood. I preferred gravel just because for better drainage. I figured it would work out best in our situation, just having gravel as the floor.
You never do, right?
Yep. We just had a bunch of gravel delivered. This is going to be the base for the greenhouse pad. Actually, it is going to be the greenhouse pad. We're not concreting. It'll just be a layer of gravel that the greenhouse sits on. We're hoping it's enough. It was really, we did the math as far as cubic yards to have delivered, and this is 1.5 cubic yards. So should be enough. Bigger than it looks as I kind of walk around it. Yeah, we'll make it work. It should be fine. So this area was not quite level. It wasn't too steeped, but it really wasn't quite level. We did have a good starting point because we just kind of tagged into the this 4x4 that like frames the shed in. So we did our outer frame, kind of tagged it onto that, just using pressure treated 4x4s. So it was pretty flat to the ground on this side. And what we had to do first though was to build up this corner here, which was low lying. And this is another one of those things that we just kind of figured out, and we hope that we did it right. It seems pretty solid. So we kind of set the corner up on these bricks just as a resting spot while we worked, and we decided that we liked that, so we're going to keep that there as like an anchor, and then built up a ridge along each one of these sides here, just to have something for the 4x4 to rest upon. And then once again at this end all the way around, it just kind of butts up against the frame of the shed there. So it wasn't too unlevel. You can see here, these are just standard size like house bricks, and they're 3 high. So that's how much we had to build it up there. So once we got the frame in place and leveled off, we had already arranged for gravel to be delivered here, and that's been here for a couple of weeks. We just had to wait till we had the time away from work to work on this. We went ahead and laid weed barrier down over the soil line through the whole space, and then we just did like the laborious process of filling it in with the gravel. unfortunately, we don't have a tractor or a bobcat or any kind of mechanical scooping device. So this was trip after trip of shoveling the gravel into our gorilla cart and bringing it around from the other side of the house over here to where the greenhouse is. So it was a pretty labor-intensive process. We just took it real slow and did small loads just to save any wear and tear on our backs. But we got there eventually, and we had 1.5 cubic yards of number 57 limestone. It's kind of the gravel that typically you would see in driveways. That's what we had delivered. And when we did like some quick conversions online, we were curious to see like how many pounds of gravel that is. It was probably between 3,000 and 4,000 pounds of gravel. So we got our work in that day for sure. So back to the greenhouse. The whole time we were adding gravel in, typically I would be the one carting the gravel over because my husband does have to watch out for his back. So I would load up the cart, bring it over. He would dump it from the cart. Luckily the cart has one of those levers where you just pull the lever and the whole cart tilts up. So we didn't have to shovel it out of the cart. We just dumped it. Then he would spread it out and use a tamping device, which it's in the shed right now. I might grab that and show you guys what that is in case you're interested. So he would go around after getting it spread out and tamp it down. And then we just kept doing it like layer after layer. And it took us probably the whole thing from getting the outer 4x4 frames set in to filling it with gravel probably about 3 hours. So it wasn't terrible, and we had set aside time to do this, and it's good to get it done. Then the next thing that we did was to build a smaller frame, which you've seen by now sitting in the centered inside of the gravel pad, and that's the frame that the greenhouse will actually be anchored to. So once again, it's just 4x4 pressure treated, and I'll show you closer how we did that. So we did have to do a little bit of math to make sure that we were going to be able to have the right lengths. It wasn't simply a matter of getting like 8-foot long 4x4s. You had to like work it out a certain way so that the greenhouse itself will be able to sit like right in the center as close as possible to the 4x4, just to give it some space on each side so that we could anchor it down. And then we also installed these brackets just to make sure it stays together. And for both the inner and the outer frame, my husband did this part, used rebar. He pre-drilled holes in the 4x4s and then just drove rebar straight down into the ground. And I think there's maybe 3 12-inch long pieces of rebar per each length of 4x4. So it's anchored in there really solid. And then he did the same thing for both the inner and the outer frame. Although it's looking like for this inner frame, he might have just done 2 pieces of rebar per length of board. But either way, it's in there really solid. It's not going anywhere. So I think this was the hardest part. Yay, it's done. And the next part, which we'll probably be doing here soon, is to actually assemble the greenhouse. We already have all the pieces here, and we just need to put them together, which hubby loves assembling things, and he's really good at it. He never needs to look at instructions. It's one of his definitely a good skill to have. With my hands helping out, he will have that thing up in no time, I'm sure. So I'm thinking about filming that whole assembly process, maybe like a time lapse. We'll see if he's comfortable with me doing that or not. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys how we built the frame, and I will try to remember to put in a picture of that tamping device that we used to like tamp that gravel down in there really solid. So until next time, that's about it. This is Angela signing off with the friendly reminder to get out there and play in the dirt. Bye.